Hey everyone, welcome back to another video in my Learning to Draw video series. Today I'm going to show you how to do a value drawing of a cube. I think this is a great exercise for you guys to do when first starting to learn how to draw with value. So I'll use this as my example, and just so you can kind of see it a little close up. Okay, and there are a lot of examples online, so you can just go ahead and type in value drawing of a cube online and then find a picture so that you can use that as your reference. So the first thing that we want to do is get the overall outline of the form, and even if you don't have a sense of perspective, that's okay, but if you do know how to use perspective, that can help. So what I want to do first is grab or draw this line right here, so you can see it's not perfectly straight, it's a little bit on an angle. Okay, so I'll just put that here. And now I'll go ahead and put in my bottom too. So try your best to look at this angle here. And if it helps, what you can do is just draw a straight line and pay attention to this angle right here. Okay. Now I'll go ahead and put in this angle. Same thing, we want to pay attention to this angle that we see right here. Alright. Careful not to come up too far. Now I'll go ahead and put in this. And just so you know, this and this are receding to a vanishing point way out here. I'll go over perspective in another video. Now I say that just so you know, so that when we look at the bottom of this, what's happening is it's starting to turn. Okay, so if I were to be holding a string out here, you would see that it would, as it's turning up, you'd see that that line here is, or I should say the angle is starting to move down as we go from the top of the box down. Okay, so when I'm drawing this, we want to make sure that this angle and this angle are not the same. So this would be the same, okay, and that would be wrong. So we want to drop that down. Okay, and we can see that this corner is coming out just a little bit more. So we'll bring that out. If you want to use a ruler, that's okay. We're going to do the same thing here. Now this is going to be going up a little bit. So we actually have almost a three-point, we actually do have a three-point perspective drawing because all of these points are pointing down. This is pointing over here to a point, and this is pointing over here to a point. Like I said, you don't need to know the ins and outs of how to do perspective. This is almost like a little bit of a primer for doing that. But the reality is that what I really want to focus on is doing a value drawing of a cube. And before we do that cube, we want to make sure that our edges all look pretty accurate. Okay. Now, same thing as we look at this, because this is connected to a point over here, as this turns, okay, you can see that it's not the same angle. Okay, so if we took that angle and if I just moved it up, you would see that that's not the same right here. Okay, it actually turns down because they're both connected to a point out here. So when I draw my line, I don't want that same angle as this. I want to actually come down a bit. Okay, and now if we look here, you can see that angle, and it's connected to this point here. So if I turn my pencil, you can see that that's matching that. Okay. Okay, so that seems okay. I might have made this just a little longer than I needed to. Just make a quick correction here. And again, if you need to use a ruler, go ahead and use a ruler. I think I'm just a little impatient, so I'm just doing this by hand, and hopefully my eyes are kind of help me see the difference, or the where the lines are supposed to be. Okay, so this is good enough for me for now. Now I'm going to go ahead and look at this as a reference, just to kind of see what I want to do. Now, whenever you're doing a value drawing, always remember that there's a light source, and that light source dictates where the lightest areas are, and also where your darkest areas are. And here's your shadow over here. So here we can see that the light is coming from somewhere on the left side. Okay, it's actually up a little bit because we can see that that corner is getting lit up. Okay, so the light is somewhere over here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'll start by shading this right here, and if we look close, okay, you can see that it's just a little bit lighter on this side, and then as it goes down, it gets a little darker. So the way that I'm going to do my shading is I'm going to hold the pencil on the end like this, and I'm going to let the weight of the pencil just come down. So in other words, I'm not pushing down with my finger, I'm just letting the pencil do the work for me, and I'm going in the direction of this line right here. So when I shade, I'm going to be shading like this, and as I come up, I'm going to be shading in this direction. So hopefully that makes sense. So I'm going to put down a base gray, just a really light gray. Hopefully the camera can pick it up. And I want this to be pretty uniform all on this side. Okay. So I have my gray. And I'm trying to go in the direction of the box as that angle comes down from the top side to the bottom side. All right. Now it's pretty light, and I could probably push it just a little bit more. And as you can see, I'm doing this with my number 2 pencil. Now when I'm done this, what I want to ask you guys to do is make at least 3 of these. So I want you to try using your different types of drawing pencils that we went over in the other video. So I want you to try making a light gray box, a medium gray box, and then a dark gray box. So I'm just taking my time. Notice how I'm shading. I'm trying to be uniform. Okay, so I've just increased the overall gray of this entire side. Okay. And as I look here, you can see that it's getting a little darker as we go down. So I'm going to I'll just take my pencil right about the midpoint of the box, and I'll start to put a little bit more pressure down. Not too much, so just a little bit more pressure. Now if you want, you can go ahead and use a ruler to put on the edge to kind of keep some of that shading there. I'm just going to go ahead and I'll just erase it when I'm done. I don't have a ruler handy right now. I was just looking for one on the side, but I don't know where they all went. So I'm just pushing my value down. And now I'll give it just a little bit more value. Now if you look over here, my eye is picking up that this is getting just a tad darker over here. It's really subtle, but I'm going to go ahead and just kind of give that a little bit more of a value right there. It's pretty subtle, so try not to go too far with it. So you can see that this takes time, and you have to have a lot of patience, but this also can be kind of relaxing too. So you don't have to think about this as work. This could just be something fun to do, just to get your mind off things, or if you're just looking to relax. Okay, so I think I'm pretty close to what I see in the picture. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and do the top. So what I'm going to do is grab a piece of paper and I'll put it down like this. And the reason why is because when I start to shade, I'm going to have my hand over the shaded area. And if I shade without that paper, my hand might start to move, and the bottom of my hand will start to smudge all that pencil that's there. Now I'll go ahead and I'll start to shade this. Now you can either shade in this direction, well, you can shade in this direction or this direction. I like to go in the direction, I try to imagine that I'm going in one direction for this plane. You could do a cross shading and that's fine. For me personally, I just pick a direction and I go with it. Just for the sake of making this easy, I'm going to just stay going in this direction, and I'm going to pay attention to what's here. And I'm going to follow this line and start to shade. And then as I shade, I'm going to start to have my pencil match this angle, which is down here. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. I'm just going to make this edge a little darker. And I want to put just that base tone gray down. So nothing too heavy, just be careful. It's better to build your value up slow than commit and go too hard. And I would say in drawing, just hold off before you press down all the way on your pencil. It's just never, it's kind of like never a solid idea just to go ahead and commit to pressing down all at once. Okay, now this corner it got pretty light, so if you notice I'm just leaving it, I'm leaving it almost white here. And I'm going to go ahead and just push this edge. And you can see right here along this edge it's pretty crisp. So make sure that your shading is uniform right along the edge. I'm probably going just a tad darker than the picture, but I'm just going to commit to it anyway right now. So let's look at that. So here we have this and that. Okay, I probably went just a tad darker. Maybe I could actually darken this up just a little bit more. And if you notice here on the edge, it's a little bit darker, and I'll definitely do that. So let me go ahead and just darken up this edge. So this is an exercise in seeing value, in creating value. And in order to make things look more realistic when we draw, you really want to control how much gray you have in your pictures if you're doing a black and white drawing. So you want to get comfortable with your pencil, just get comfortable with how much pressure you use, and you're going to figure out your own way of holding the pencil. So if you want to hold your pencil in a different way, that's okay. So I'm looking at that right now, and I'll just go just a little darker here. And these two values are pretty close. So I'm going to get them to be just a little closer. I think for the exercise and to give clarity, I think what we want to do is pick one side and have that one side be the darker side. And I'm going to just make the top just a tad darker, just so we can have a clear difference between the top and the bottom. Be careful that you don't over outline the edges. If you do, it'll look like a cartoon. Okay. This side over here, you can see is pretty white, so I'm gonna leave that be. I'm not even gonna. There's nothing really to shade there. So let me just get rid of some of my extra edges. I'm almost done this. The last thing that's left is that shadow that we see there. And I might do a video later on how to figure out where to put shadows when you're drawing a cube in space. That might happen after we do some perspective drawings, which will be coming up pretty soon. If you have a paintbrush, you can use a paintbrush and then just sweep away some of this. I'm definitely being a little lazy here, I'm sorry, but I'm just using my hands. But if you have like a wide paintbrush, just go ahead and use that paintbrush and you can just sweep some of that away. Okay, so now what I want to do is go ahead and put in this shadow, which is right here. So this edge looks like it's almost even with the bottom of this. It actually comes up just a little bit more. Again, you can use a ruler. I'm just going to do it with my hand and just be as steady as I can. Okay, this looks like it's coming up, not halfway, but about 2/3 of the way up. So let me just go just a little higher here. And this should recede to the same vanishing point as up here. So again, if you don't understand vanishing points, that's okay, but just try to pay attention to the fact that these slanted lines are all pointing, they're all angled to the same point that's over here on this side. And that will help you as you're drawing this. Okay, so this is pretty dark. And I'm actually going to commit to pressing down. I'm not pressing down all the way. I'm going to go ahead and just do maybe like 3/4 pressure of, and I want to see what it looks like with that. Also, if you want to show a little texture, that's okay too. Sometimes I think it's okay when you draw to show some texture. I think it just makes the picture look more organic, gives it a little bit of and just gives it a little something more than if you just try to do it ultra smooth. But it's up to you. Okay, so that's a medium value. You can see here it goes pretty dark. So I'll go ahead and just press down all the way. I try to have my shading go in the same direction. And the reason why is that it's making that all look like it's all on one surface. It's giving it in my opinion, I think it makes it have a flatter view. This plane that's right here, this surface that we're creating the illusion. Alright, so I'm almost done here. Let me just finish by cleaning up this edge just a little bit more. Let me just make that edge a little crisper. And my pencil probably could be sharpened right now. But this is just an exercise, okay? And I have a feeling that you're going to do even better than this. Okay, you guys can take your time. If you need to sharpen your pencil, give it that really razor sharp tip, especially when you want to do the edges of the boxes. And that'll give it just a hyper-realistic look. And right now I'm just going for something that looks decent. Okay, so there you go. There's your value drawing of a cube with a shadow. So give this a try, and what I want you to do is after you finish this, go ahead and make 2 more and try to make the second and the third go 1 step darker, and then the third one should go another step darker. So let this first one be your lightest one, then you can try another one and go darker, and then another one and go darker still. And I would advise that you try using all your different drawing pencils, especially those ones that are the 2B, the 4B, and the 6B for going with those darker areas. So that's it. I hope I brought you some value today, and I look forward to giving you another lesson. Thanks so much.